Hello friends, welcome back to Cloud Pedagogy. In today's exercise, we learn how to authenticate AWS CLI with AWS short-term credentials. To do so, you will configure the AWS command line interface, which is AWS CLI. The AWS CLI is a unified tool to manage your AWS services. With just one tool to download and configure, you can control multiple AWS services from the command line and automate them through scripts. Of course, AWS Web Console performs the same action as AWS CLI does, but the difference comes when it's about quick output in a short period of time. AWS CLI helps to control Amazon's public cloud services by typing commands in the command line. It is configurable in Windows, Mac OS and Linux. In this exercise, we will configure AWS IAM Identity Center to provide temporary credential for your development environment in Windows. Let's go through the task first. In the first task, we will create AWS access and secret keys using IAM Identity Center. In the second task, we will install AWS CLI and configure the credentials which are created in the task 1. In task 3, we will create AWS services and verify those services in AWS CLI. In the task 4, we will clear all the resources which are created in this lab. If you are ready, let's start with the task 1. Create AWS access and secret keys. AWS access and secret keys are too short to be public or private RSA keys. AWS access key ID is a form of unique user or account identifier for a user. By the way, in some cases, it could be considered as sensitive data, whereas sharing access key can lead to tracking like who accesses which system and when. If you are an administrator, regularly rotate the access keys for IAM users. Whereas AWS secret key is like private key. You can consider your access key as username and secret key as the password. You can use and copy temporary credentials that are available in the AWS Access Portal. New credentials will need to be copied when these expire. You can use the temporary credentials in a profile or use them as values for system properties and environment variables. You can use the AWS Management Console to manage the access keys of an IAM user. Use your AWS account ID or account alias, your IAM username and your password to sign into the IAM console. In the navigation bar on the upper right, choose your username and then choose security credentials. In the access keys section, I can see a key already created, but I would like to create another one for this lab. So choose Create Access Key. If you already have 2 access keys, this button is deactivated and you must delete an access key before you can create a new one. On the Access Key Best Practices and Alternatives page, choose your use case to learn about additional options which can help you avoid creating a long-term access key. Here, I would like to provide access for only CLI. So, I am selecting CLI. If you determine that your use case still requires an access key, choose Other and then choose Next. Set a description tag value for the access key if you need it. This adds a tag key value pair to your IAM user. This can help you identify and update access keys later. The tag key is set to the access key ID. The tag value is set to the access key description that you specify. When you are finished, choose Create Access Key. On the Retrieve Access Key page, choose either Show to reveal the values of your user's secret access key or Download .csv file. This is your only opportunity to save your secret access key. So make sure that you save your secret access key in a secure location and then click Done. Congratulations, you have successfully created your credentials. In task 2, we will install AWS CLI and configure these credentials. Now that we have created the credentials, it's time to use them. First, you will configure the AWS command line interface. To update your current installation of AWS CLI on Windows, download a new installer each time you update to override previous versions. Open the Start menu, search for CMD to open the command prompt window. Execute the AWS CLI version command here. Follow the instructions in the installation wizard. After complete the installation, to confirm the installation, enter AWS version. This gives you the latest version ID of your AWS. If Windows is unable to find the program, you might need to close and reopen the command prompt window to refresh the path. Since the AWS CLI is installed, now we can configure our credentials using AWS CLI. When you use the AWS configure command, you will be asked for AWS keys, region and output format. Copy the access key and secret key which we have downloaded from the task 1. In the default region name, I am entering US East 1 since my resources are in North Virginia region. However, you can choose any region closest to your location. In default output format, I am entering JSON. This makes sure that when we run any command in CLI, it's going to split out some output. And there are several different options available, like how you want those outputs printed out. You can get it in JSON, YAML or even text format. I would like to have my output format to be JSON. So enter JSON. Congratulations, you have installed AWS CLI and configured your credentials. Now it's time to create AWS services and verify them through AWS CLI. To do so, let's create an EC2 instance with the help of the command here. AWS EC2 run instances with image ID, Windows image ID with instance type T2 micro. For the security group, subnet and key name, I'm using the existing resources. So copy the IDs of those respective attributes. For the tag specification, I'm just giving some tags. I would only need one instance, so keeping count as 1. Enter the command and it will launch EC2 instance in a few seconds. In the meantime, we'll go in AWS Management Console page and check the EC2 instance is created or not. As you see here in the console page, we can see an extra instance is going to be created. Head back to the terminal. See here we have successfully created and deployed the EC2 instance. To check if the configuration is correct, enter AWS EC2 describe instances. After some time, the window will be displayed with the success message. Congratulations! This confirms that your AWS CLI has now been set up correctly. In the final task, we will clear the resources. It's time to delete the instance that you have created through using AWS CLI command. You can use CLI command or you can terminate it from the console. Since we have already covered how to terminate the instance from the console page, here I will terminate the instance using the AWS CLI command. To terminate the instance, I'll enter AWS EC2 terminate instances with region US East 1 with instance ID which I copy from the console page. Congratulations, you have learned how to set up the AWS CLI with AWS short-term credentials. Well, that's all for today's lab. Meet you again in my next video. Until then, take care.